Hello and welcome back to Wake Up Our Faith. This is the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. We like to think of it as a conversation to shed light on the upside of upside down living. Kevin Adams, Matt Ham, bring it in, brother.
Hammondstein
and Adamsovich. That's what we were joking before. I just love it. Silly, but fun. Guys, we love to have a good time here, talk about how you begin to navigate life between Sundays and letting faith be more than just a rote habit on Sundays, but actually living by it, letting faith navigate. We love talking about that. We're going to share some stuff with you guys today. Appreciate you commenting on our Facebook live feed, YouTube feed. You guys get subscribed, do all that kind of fun stuff. Got a podcast as well on iTunes and Spotify. I hope you guys would check that out. Amy Mulligan is in studio today as part of Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM, WFBT. Many thanks to her and the studio station for putting the show on and producing it for us. We air every Sunday, 12 to 2 p.m. Corporate partners make this show possible, one of those being Freeman Landscaping, the largest privately owned and land and irrigation firm in eastern North Carolina. Family owned and operated since 1992, both residential and commercial landscaping. Give them a call, 910-796-1166. Brother Adams.
Brother Hammondstein.
I'm done with all of my, intros here, so now I'll just pass the mic.
It's all a blur, except for our sponsors, which we love. There's no blurriness there. I appreciate you doing it. I think it's part of your gift, man, is doing those intros.
Except when my mouth goes faster than my brain and I mispronounce stuff, which is common.
Well, that's all right, man. That's what grace is for.
That's right, man. That's right.
Jesus came. One of the reasons was that.
Good thing he did. We need it in droves.
He's I don't remember where it was, but I mentioned something on the way over here. We were talking about just the interesting church environments, for lack of a better term or description. But you mentioned, or I mentioned I think it was funny. I don't know where it was, but Holly pointed out a church to me the other day in our travels that it just said Jesus is boss on it. Like it wasn't painted on there; it was on a sign. So it was really cool.
Now I have an image of Jesus like being Bruce Springsteen. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if we're just dancing in the dark, like Jesus in his get up singing, man. The boss.
Beautiful. Oh, love it.
Don't let that image leave.
Yeah,
and it won't.
Yeah, he's tough, man. He's got that throw the wrench at me thing, right?
Good stuff.
He is the boss, and we want to show how good he is, and maybe throw out some nuggets today to help people be encouraged in their walk and all of that. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, so what are we going to dive into today, Kev? What we have on the docket? I know you got some good stuff on the notepad over here. Let's pull it out.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about this process about how you go from kind of a dream state to vision, purpose, understanding what purpose is, and all that. So we're going to take a break from that today, maybe, and we'll come back to it later. But today we're talking about just something very practical, and we're talking about it in a sort of a this versus that. And we've talked about these things before, but it's a category I would label salt versus sugar. If you have a jar of salt and a jar of sugar and you have them on a table and you look at them from across the room, you don't know which is which. So one's really, really good for you and healthy. The other is not so much. And we're talking about refined sugar here. Your body needs, it needs glucose and sugar, but talking about just table salt versus table sugar, you don't need it. You really never need it. But they look very similar. And so what we're talking about here is kind of this idea of accidental counterfeit, something that you don't realize that you're operating in, or behavior pattern. So that's sort of the starting place. What does that look like, one thing versus another? And just to kind of shed light on it,
I want to add a little thing in there. So this is birthed out of the gospel, which says, "Be the salt of the earth."
Sure.
And it came from kind of this imagery that you created in a picture of that salt and sugar both look alike on the table. I just wanted to tie that in. And so the question or the challenge is for Christians, are you living like salt or are you living more like sugar? And so put yourself kind of in the mirror and look at that and try to determine what's counterfeit versus what is real.
Yeah, that's right. We're supposed to be salt, light, and leaven. Salt, light, and leaven. Those are the things that help bring about greater, whether it's flavor, whether it's illumination, clarity, or whether it's all boats rise together with the leaven. It makes the bread rise. So those are the things. But yeah, when you look at salt, it's very. What is it? 70-80% of our makeup, our physical makeup, it's salt water.
Right.
So there's a lot to that. But anyway, that's just a good mental picture, a good image. We've been talking about not letting things in your heart. Well, in the Bible teaches us to guard your heart. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We just speak about it in a different way to help illuminate it and make it clear. So this is no different. But anyway, think about this idea that of counterfeit, kind of a counterfeit walk, that you think you're walking in it. Your heart's in the right place, but it's astray a little bit, and you don't know it. But you're not seeing progress. You're not seeing growth. You're just kind of stagnant. You feel a little down, depressed, that kind of thing. This is where we want to help encourage you to go take a second look at this and double check some things. So.
Yeah. No, and again, just to kind of reiterate to our audience, I mean, this is the work that we do as an organization. It's discipleship. Right. It's helping people move beyond kind of the sugary substance and into something that is purifying and that is salt, that's long-term, kingdom-mindedness, instead of just earthly kind of groveling and struggling and suffering through every day, just hamster wheel, rote habits, routine, busyness, all that junk that weighs everybody down.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the topics I think that fits this very nicely is under the salt column, so to speak. You have this idea of boldness in Scripture. We need to be bold, and but what do we hear from people? And I hear it from people, and or maybe it comes in at a side angle, but feel like I'm pretty bold, and I think when you get enough limbs knocked off of you, and then you just know you're a daggum tree, and doesn't matter. You're just going to stand up and be a tree and be proud of it in that sense. But so we have to be bold. But what do a lot of people say
about boldness?
Yeah, what do they? What's the common dart thrown at that?
You're arrogant.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, don't be so arrogant.
Yeah.
And to me, arrogant, it sounds like a name of a hairspray.
Arrogant.
Yeah, aerosol, arrogance.
Yeah, there you go.
To hold your hair in place with arrogance. Get it now on sale. I don't know. I'm weird. But.
Maybe we should create a jar of hairspray called Arrogance.
Exactly. I see it, man.
Actually, there are probably people that use that don't even realize it.
It's green and... It says it down the side, and oh gosh,
that's funny.
It literally is spraying arrogance on you.
So good.
But so boldness versus arrogance. What's the difference? Salt versus sugar. What's the difference? There's a major difference, and a lot of people just can that down, distill it, and try to generalize it in a way that kind of makes people feel bad about being bold, about standing up for something. So to me, we've got to learn the difference, talk through it a little bit. But quickly, the main difference is boldness comes from humility, arrogance comes from insecurity. So we can tap into that.
I love what C.S. Lewis wrote. He said something like, "You're only troubled by someone else's arrogance if you are."
Brilliant.
It notices it in itself, but I love that. Boldness is driven by humility. Arrogance is driven by insecurity.
Yeah.
Gosh,
right.
Man, that is so good.
So in a way, they're absolute opposites, but they look similar on the surface. Just like salt and sugar.
Gosh, that is so good. And I think the secondary piece of this, Kevin, is we need a salty, bold generation for the Lord.
That's right.
And not an insecure, arrogant, sugary version of of the Christian life with the arrogance hairspray. Dude, I'm telling you, I have a skit in my head of like some guys like are spraying on arrogance every day. We got to do this.
Well, I saw it, man. It's a hairspray, but
it's beautiful.
That stuff gives me a headache.
Well, guys, we're going to take a short break. Matt Ham and Kevin Adams on Wake Up Our Faith. We'll be back for more right after this, but we do want to encourage you to check out the Portable Faith Community. Get plugged in at uprint.life, YOUPRINT.LIFE. Hello, and welcome back to Wake Up Our Faith, the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. We like to think of it as a conversation to shed light on the upside of upside down living. Matt Hams, Kevin Adams with you live here at Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM. Show is streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Rebroadcast every Sunday on the Big Talker 12 to 2, and to our podcasts, Wake Up Our Faith and Faith in Business, can be found on iTunes and Spotify. Appreciate you guys going us and giving us some reviews, letting us know you're listening. Feel free to comment here. We got some comments, Kevin, from listeners saying they love the distinction of salt and sugar. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. That's kind of what we're talking about today, is distinguishing in the Christian life between living as salt and living as sugar. We're going to carry on with that, but I want to recognize our corporate partners for making this show possible. One of those being our good friend Chris Riley and the team at Fountain Financial Associates. They are about giving clients and families a better life and about keeping promises. If you have any needs in regards to kind of your financial future, financial stewardship, as it relates to investments and long-term planning, feel free to call Chris and the team at Fountain Financial, 910-256-8882.
Hello. Just trying to make sure I can hear myself.
You good?
Yeah, that Scotch tape works great.
Perfect.
I feel like I'm on a mission, man. I got a wire on. What is it?
Mission Impossible?
Johnny Depp.
You're talking about the Blow movie? The one?
No, before that.
Oh, gosh.
What
I'm
is
searching it.
It's Joe something. Anyway, he infiltrated the mob and helped bring it down.
Johnny Brasco.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just had to work on me a little
Donnie.
bit. Donnie Brasco.
Yeah.
That's it.
Anyway, that's kind of got the wire going.
Hey, this is my friend Kevin here. Kevin's in here today with Donnie Brasco.
Man. I promise there's a guy in my apartment that is that guy. I don't know. I said, hey, him and his kids have all the handicap parking spots. They take all of them. It's like they're all. It's a handicap family. I'm sorry. I know that's the wrong terminology, but
the point is they're not.
They're not.
They just use the parking spaces.
They're not.
Yes, I mean to clarify that.
Yeah, right. I'm standing up for the disabled or whatever,
They
man.
need
It's ridiculous. These guys are not, and yet they, somehow have figured this thing out, and so I'm constantly stressing when I see them taking up all those spots, like they're their personal spots, and I don't know where we're going with this.
I'll just let you have your space, man.
But it's character, man. They might be clever.
Yes,
they're very clever, but it reveals their cleverness, but it also reveals their character.
Yeah,
and I think that's where we were going to go next. So there you go.
I love it. Great segue by Kevin Adams. No, I think what you meant there, or what you said there, was powerful, because so often we're crafty and we're clever. It's like, oh, well, if I could get 3 handicap spots, then when people come visit me, we could get special parking at the beach or whatever.
Right.
But that has no integrity in it.
Yeah.
It has no character.
And to be clear, I mean, we're just a few minute walk from the ocean, so a lot of people do want to park in there, but so there's an incentive there other than just parking close to the building. So.
Yeah. So let's carry on this idea of salt versus sugar and counterfeit versus real, and how that plays out with this character idea versus cleverness.
Yeah. Well, let's back up a second. I kind of jumped ahead there, but When boldness itself, we're talking about boldness versus arrogance a minute ago, and really, when you're bold, it means you're impassioned. In other words, it's you feel settled. You feel a sense of peace in your heart. Your heart will follow the illogical thing, the voice of God, His Spirit, His Word. No, it's not logical, right? So you can look through Scripture if you want to argue that. Not you, but anybody. It's illogical. So that we have to throw that out from the beginning. Jesus, pointing out a fish with a coin in its mouth. I mean, this is the world that we have to sort of build off of. And so if we let go of that immediately, then we end up with the other side of this, which is a lack of faith, which really starts to be arrogant. In other words, we know best. We're smarter than God. Yes, He's more powerful, but we're a little bit smarter. So that is that sugary stuff where people begin to see, the Elvis or the polish or whatever on you, rather than the depth of who you are, who God made you to be. So boldness, look at it this way as well. It comes from humility because it's anointed, and it's fire. You have to let it out, but it honors God. It's not about you or me. It honors Him. So you have to let it out. Arrogance, on the other side, which is, again, people confuse these two things because they look similar on the surface, is this idea that we're trying to prove something to everybody, how good we are. And, I remember being a kid and being put in a remedial class because they didn't understand me. And but later on, I was so hurt by those kinds of things that I had this drive, this sort of orphan spirit to tell people, hey, man, I'm pretty smart after all. And,
I'm laughing because I know you said, well, I'm not laughing at that.
Well, it doesn't go over well. Well, this is 25, 30 years ago. Hey, look at me. I'm pretty smart, and like now who cares? But the point is that's the difference between being bold and arrogant. Arrogant is there's an insecurity. There's something missing there, and you feel like you've got to fill it with how good you look to people.
To me, boldness isn't trying to convince anyone, and arrogance is.
That's right.
That's a good. That just hit me. It was like you're trying to convince someone of something instead of just standing.
That's
on it.
Right.
It's like I'm not going to try to convince you that that's the battleship. That's the battleship over there, right? It's the battleship.
That's a speedboat.
Yeah, that's arrogant.
I don't see it.
Yeah. That's the difference. And so often in our lives we walk around trying to live as if we're convincing people instead of just being bold. A second thought.
Yeah, that's good.
A second thought on this thing, Kevin, is as it relates to like some of the miraculous. We start talking about the spiritual side of healing and kind of the prophetic and stuff like this. Is that this is a great distinguisher here because for someone who's seeking their own glory. And starts seeking out healing or prophecy or some of these gifts, there's a subtleness there that's coming from this insecurity versus someone who's just standing up and saying, like, listen, God just put this on my heart and I'm going to share it with you, and then He can do whatever He will.
That's
Whether
right.
that means you're praying for a person on the street to be healed, that is His job.
Yeah.
His reputation.
We'll get into prayer, too, in a minute or a few minutes. But, absolutely. That's a great observation. It's you're giving birth to something that you can't hold back. That requires boldness. You have to stand up and not worry about what other people think. Arrogance is the exact opposite. You only care about what other people think, and so you're trying to prove something.
Wow.
So what you said and
so
what we're driving home here is, don't let people tell you you're arrogant if you're being bold. If you're giving birth to something God put in you, then you got to do it, or you'd be disobedient. The other side of that is if you're waiting on God to give you something, don't go trying to manufacture something or be like somebody else. There's only one Beatles, so you don't have to be them. Just be you, and that's sort of the idea. It's a counterfeit. The enemy is always trying to flip it over, twist it around, and make it counterfeit. So we're just shedding light on it. We talk about character versus being clever. Same idea. So we got a couple minutes here. So so now back to that. We'll circle back. We used to, they got the blue wheelchair tags in their cars, and I'm just like, oh, you guys are so clever. What are you teaching your kids? Kid zooms in and out. These guys are not, they're not Special Olympic material. These guys are work out. They're big old dudes, and it's ridiculous. So, but it shows, it's a great example, and I don't want to get in trouble with anybody. I mean, we love to. My heart is, look, guys, open this back up, because there's really people who, especially elderly. I mean, my parents have a disability, and they need to park close. So, anyway, I want to back off of that. But the idea is, it's when you are clever, it only goes so far. Mm. It only goes so far. It's sugar.
Yeah. It's like this college education scandal that's going on. People getting their kids into Ivy League schools.
That's right.
They're trying to find ways around the law, around the rules, to make themselves look good, instead of having the character to stand on it. Yeah. That's another example in culture today where people are trying to be clever and crafty to bend the rules because they don't quote unquote agree with it.
Right.
It's the same example.
Yeah, but your character will be revealed in time, and pretty soon all you got left is your cleverness. So, it's like my wife, she encourages me sometimes and says, look, this is all they got. I get mad seeing the kid park there and leave from there, and I mean, kid's healthier than me. She said, yeah, but Kevin, that's all they got.
Yeah.
That's all they got. And I don't know, there's some kind of convicting encouragement in that.
Yeah. Well, guys, you were listening to and watching Wake Up Our Faith. We'll be right back after this. Hello, and welcome back to Wake Up Our Faith. This is the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. We like to think of it as a conversation to shed light on the upside of upside-down living. I am captivated, to be honest, for our live viewers. I'm looking out the window behind us. Man, it's just a gorgeous day in southeastern North Carolina. Studio here overlooks the Cape Fear River, just kind of taking it all in. So
it overlooks the most decorated battleship of World War II as well, and you can't see it. It's incredible to stare at that. And of course, there's the little tourist boats going down the river, and for some reason I'm just seeing these big guns fire and blow one of them out of the water.
Welcome. This is Kevin Adams, folks. That's the way he thinks.
We mean no harm.
Oh man,
just fun.
It is so good to have you guys with us today. We're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Show is podcasted on Spotify and iTunes. You can check it out. Wake Up Our Faith. Having a fantastic conversation today about distinguishing counterfeit versus real in our faith lives and what that looks like. Want to make sure we thank our corporate partners for making this show possible. One of those being Dr. Greg Veman at Seacoast Skin Surgery. Also, also his ministry, Everlasting Strength. Dr. Veman is a great friend, a phenomenal skin surgeon, great speaker, evangelist. He has a wonderful story, testimony, great book called The God Diagnosis. You can check it out, everlastingstrength.org, 910-256-2100 on the phone. So, Kev, today, diving into counterfeit versus real, and let's just carry on, man. It's just so good.
Okay, well, I think just to fly the helicopter back up for a second, we need to, in order for us to advance, to be productive kingdom citizens, we don't need religious spirit. We don't need legalism. We don't need liturgical. We don't need everyone's opinions. All we need is God's word and spirit, and to understand what's been done for us and to move forward in that. So the big question is, why am I still here after I've been saved? If you're a Christian, that means a whole lot, not just, getting others saved. Because God has put great intention and care into developing you and creating you. He did it on purpose. So we are His idea, and as His idea, our greatest form of obedience is to uncover that and live out and fulfill His dream. So that said, it was a moment to just kind of put all that back together. Part of what we have to understand is how to navigate our own strongholds and how to be free of them. And we have to learn how to navigate others. So in all that context, we've got these different things that come along. The enemy tries to steal this or twist that or change that. So we need to understand what those look like, not just say, watch out for Satan.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we get from the real quick diet version of Christendom, So anyway, we're focusing on one particular area here, just behaviors, things that we can walk into our daily life and look at and go, wow, I see it. I really understand it now. That's boldness, or that is arrogance. And you can really feel it in your heart, the difference.
Yeah.
But you also want to understand in your own heart how you're carrying this out. And if you're medicating, it could be you could be falling into another camp. If you're, like you said, if you're trying to prove something, or accomplish something, or manufacture something, glory to me by accident. If you're not, you're just being bold because you just head over heels in love with your Father and carrying out His mission. That's boldness. That's character. That won't be compromised. It won't be shaken, to put it in scriptural terms.
One of the things that just hit me, Kev, as we're talking through this is we talk often about fear on the show. It's one of our teachings at UPrint, helping people navigate fear. Right. And kind of the most subtle fear of the fear that we deal with is the fear of the opinions of people. And I just kind of felt it like this, is that the fear of the opinions of people is what turns salt into sugar. We were created to be salt.
That's right.
But when we start living by the opinions of people, we conform into sugar. Yeah. And it's that whole thing of Paul saying, be not conformed to the world, be transformed.
That's right.
This is a live, tangible example of how to live as salt in the earth.
Right.
Not by the opinions of people, which wants to sugarcoat and sugar down everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was just my little.
No, that's good. That's a great observation and a thought. Very encouraging. All of this is meant to paint a picture that you can step into, and our job is to kind of just paint some nuggets for you, create some pieces to carry around with you that are healthy and meaty, I guess. So we talk about the difference here. Again, salt and sugar is a great way to sort of lock that in. You do want to let God's word into your heart. You don't want to guard your heart from Him. You don't want to apply moderation to your faith. I mean, all these things are to keep the enemy at bay, but you don't want to apply that same thing. So we take this in, get this in your heart and your imagination, and feel it, really feel it, see the difference. So the next area we wanted to sort of walk into with this idea, with this line of thinking, is in prayer. Now, again, we're talking about this kind of accidental, surfacey level Christianity where people feel like they're doing all the right things, but they are really not seeing results, or even wisdom doesn't actually end up guiding them through, and they make mistakes and that kind of thing. So that would be, a lot of people. They say, I hear it all the time, and it's good on the surface, but that is, pray about it, and pray about it, pray about it, pray about it, pray about it. I got to go pray about it. Hey, give me some time to pray about it. Well, that's good, right? There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, in fact, it's fantastic. But all that does is it leaves you in that position where there's no victory, if that's what you do. What's missing here is we need to spend a whole lot more time listening. So my counsel here as an experienced guy in life is to say, yes, lift it up, but 90% of this thing needs to be listen about it. So increase your listening skills, develop, let God edify your spirit, and guess what? You'll spend a whole lot more time listening to Him. You don't have to say, I'm going to pray about it, and then, come up with some bumper car, just something that doesn't quite connect, I guess.
No, I think it's huge because at the root of this is the difference between kind of suffering servant, I just petition the Lord,
right?
Which in and of itself is yes, It says, bring your petitions. Yes, we want to be faithful in prayer. The persistent widow paid off.
Right.
However, the flip side of this is to be like a son and start listening for the voice of the Father and be bold enough to take action where he leads instead of just sitting in this complacency.
Right. Well, that persistent widow thing is not about keep knocking so the door will fall down. That, I mean, ask, seek, knock. It's a different thing. That judge in that scenario, God does not compare himself to that. God is way better than that.
Yes.
It's a lesson, the opposite what most people think it is. It's not try harder and I'll relent. I mean, that's not a good father. No. That's not God. That's some egg-headed judge who's arrogant. And even he relented, Mm-hmm. But how much better is God? But the point isn't to say don't pray about it. The point is don't just rely on your ability to pray about it.
Yes.
It's a one-sided conversation that way. And God says his sheep know his voice. I mean, we don't even have to get into that. It's so evident and clear. We are meant to listen most of the time. So you don't have to pray about it. Lift it up and listen and be patient and listen, and he will answer. And that is where people really learn to mature. That's where the power of God happens. And my life's living proof of it. But without getting into all that, just step in.
Yeah. I think that ties back into the boldness, is because what he says may not be exactly what you want to hear, but that's when the boldness and the salt is distinguished by somebody who has the character and the fortitude and the boldness to step it out.
That's right. Well, listen, only when you recognize, only when God is all you need, only when he's all you want, you'll find out he's truly all you need. So you have to get to that place where you want only him. He's the only thing to seek, and everything he gives you is great. It's so good. You don't even need to figure it out. It's that good.
Yeah.
Most people don't. They living out of their senses instead of their spirit.
Yeah. Let's continue to press into that, guys. You're listening to and watching Wake Up Our Faith. Matt Ham and Kevin Adams. Check out more at uprint.life. We're going to take a short break. Be back for the final segment of the first hour right after this. Hello, and welcome back to Wake Up Our Faith. This is the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. We like to think of it as a conversation to shed light on the upside of upside-down living. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams with you here in the studio today. Many thanks to Amy Mulligan, doing a fantastic job producing today. Amy, you really are. I mean, thank you so much. Just all queued up, ready to go. Nick Craig is out of town this week, so thanks to Amy for doing that. I want to thank our corporate partners for making this show possible, one of those being Chris Hutchins with Guaranteed Rate Mortgage. Chris has more than 20 years experience in the mortgage business. He was on with us on our Faith and Business Hour here recently, shared a little bit about his story. You guys definitely check out Chris if you're buying a home, refinancing. They're right above PT's off Military Cutoff in Wilmington, 910-344-0304. And Kev, before we jump back into the thoughts today, I just want to offer this up. If you happen to see the show being passed along on social media, if a friend of yours was on the show, if you're a business owner and you want to partner with us, this makes the show possible, but it also forwards the mission of our nonprofit initiative, which is the Life Center.
Yes.
So it really is a huge help for local business people to help invest in this movement of what we've got going on here. Would love to invite you to do that. You can contact us directly, info@uprint.life.
Yes.
Great conversation today, Kev, about counterfeit versus real. Last segment, we were diving into prayer and how we begin to approach prayer. Let's continue.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we talked about, this idea, again, we've got this versus that. So what we hear a lot of people say, I heard, I get cynical, so you have to have some grace.
Jesus died for that, like you told me in the first segment.
That's right, man. He even died for me. Oh, man. But I think we do have to, even though we can get cynical and we do have to call it out. There's a lot of this servant attitude, slave attitude, And he said, I no longer call you slaves. I call you my friend. So we are the intimate role we have with God. New covenant is through Jesus, abiding in Him through us in the earth, us there at the right hand of the Father in heaven spiritually. That's a powerful image. So we carry that out by we don't need to grovel. We're not slaves. We're sons and daughters. In other words, we're not of the world. We're in it. We're of heaven, and we've got to get hold of that idea. And if it spooks you out, I'm sorry, but this is the truth. So you've got to learn how to understand that you're backed up by the abundance of heaven, by the Holy Spirit living in you and through you into the earth. That's such a powerful thing. So you're free. If you just let go and begin to follow, it will happen. So prayer needs to take that on too. So you're walking around, it's like Paul said, pray without ceasing. Well, that is a two-way conversation, and it's mostly God. He's got more to say than we do, and He doesn't need our advice. What He wants is thanksgiving. So prayers, once we separate it out, stop spending so much time praying about it, start learning how to listen about it.
Yes.
Get a hold of that. It might rub you the wrong way at first. I'm not saying don't pray. I'm saying give it to Him and then listen and be patient and continue to listen. That is where the power works. All right, so that said, what does a prayer consist of? Well, there's lots of ways to pray, and Jesus said, Our Father, and that kind of thing. That it's a model prayer. The focus is Him, right? Not even Jesus. He's pointing to the Father. So I've learned this, and this is something that I think it really helps sustain the joy, and it keeps us from getting in a groveling mode. There is a difference between this idea of begging God for something versus just sharing your heart when you have pain.
Yeah.
So the way we've got a good text here to read. I'll just say this real quick, and you can read it. The way I perceive this and the way that I practice my prayer is it's 90% Thanksgiving. It starts and ends with Thanksgiving. I mean, you can not run out of things. We did it for almost 24 hours one time just to see when we'd run out. So you can be thankful for the air in your lungs. I mean, all the way through. And man, you want to talk about walking around with a high. You start a prayer like that and you go through a bunch of stuff and you end your prayer there. So make your prayers, just advice, make your prayers 90% thanksgiving and 10% petitions. And even most of those 10% ought to just be lifting up other people. So you tell God what's on your heart. You need something, He knows it. Just lift it up. Pour your heart out. It's cathartic. He already knows it. But most of it ought to be about just being thankful. That's why you're praying from victory and not to gain victory.
Man, Kevin, this is such a practical, tangible, real-world thing that people can grab hold of, is shifting your prayer life to focus on Thanksgiving.
Amen.
90% of your prayer should be Thanksgiving, 10% petitions. And I would dare say the majority of folks, and I say this from my own perspective, I lived this way for many years. It's just everything's petition. Oh, and by the way, thank you for Jesus.
Yeah.
It's kind of an afterthought. And, Kevin, we got to let our listeners know that we have these powerful thoughts that we send out every single weekday morning.
That's
right. Guys, if you're not subscribed to our morning text devotionals, Word for the Day, we just encourage you to do that. We would ask that you would give a contribution to our nonprofit mission to be a part of this with us. You can go to youprint.life, youprint.life. There's a link on there to give at the Life Center. Would love for you to do that and then get access to these texts. You can email us info@youprint.life for more.
It's as low as $2 a month.
Yeah.
So you buy us a cup of coffee and you get devotional $25 a month.
Yeah.
So it's really good.
And the thoughts are powerful. Stuff we're hearing from people, Kev, is just like, this is the first thing I do every day.
Yeah.
This is such a fresh perspective. It really encourages me in my walk because it's not like a verse of the day. It's just a powerful nugget to chew on.
That's right.
And I just want to give
folks,
folks,
you think.
Yeah, I just want to give folks an example of what that looks like tied into this prayer thing.
Right on.
And here it is. This is from a couple days ago. It says, why begin every prayer with thanksgiving? because God is less interested in hearing our advice than how we respond at our lowest point. Prayer equals thank you. And you know that Kevin is so powerful, because the lowest point reveals the heart.
Yes.
And so when someone's in a difficult spot, they're saying, God, please take this away. God, take this away. This is petitioning heart.
Right.
Instead of saying, Father, you are so good.
Yes.
You have been so good to me. You have given me so much.
Now you're counting it all joy.
Yes. And it switches. It literally transforms like the DNA molecules inside of your body. It's an energy that eradicates the negativity.
That's right. Your heart you guard your heart, but let God all the way in. Don't guard it from him. And your heart will attach to the loudest voice. When your spirit's edified, your heart and that connected, you're unstoppable. You will create your future. And I've got a thought about that too. But yeah, man. So Thanksgiving is fuel for joy. And but if you read the Psalms and you see David, for example, even David, he airs his complaint. He shares it, he gets it out, he acknowledges it, but then he moves on and he says, "But God," he knows victory's coming, and he prophesies it from a place of victory before it happened. He calls something that isn't as though it is, and that's what we're supposed to do. That requires thanksgiving and joy. So
good. Yeah. People want to know, how do I get joy? How do I get more joy? Fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. Well, guess what? Start with thanksgiving, and it is fuel for joy. Yeah, that's a great thought, Kevin.
It's powerful, yeah. So, I had something earlier I jotted down I wanted to touch on, but I don't. How much time we got?
We got like a minute here.
Okay. Yeah, I think something that's really important is, we've kind of been playing country doctor to a lot of people for a while, and, just kind of bring what you can. But listen, this is good stuff. It's as good as anything out there, from soup to nuts, from, speaking seminars to one-on-one life coaching, mentoring, spiritual development. It's so good and powerful. And I'm saying that with all my heart, having gone through a ton of things to get to this place in life. And, if there's hardship, we're willing to give it away. But a lot of people, we're trying to build something here. So we're asking you to jump in at whatever level you can. But this is so valuable. It will change your life, and I promise you that if you step in. Regarding prayer and just that idea, I know what it was, and I get these and I jot them down. They end up turning into our little text, but this is where your heart goes, your future will follow, and I think that taps right into this idea that if your heart's thankful, then your future will follow that.
Yeah,
and it'll you just be patient, and God will do it.
Yeah, such a great first hour today. We're gonna be back with our second hour, Faith in Business, joined by Ali Luckadoo. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, connect with us, uprint.life, and we'll be back for the second hour right after this.